I invite you to connect with the voices of the Bible as we listen to God's Word from 1 Kings chapter 5, 1 through 5, and chapter 8, 1 through 13. Today we're hearing about one of the most significant building projects in biblical history, Solomon's Temple. But this isn't just an ancient construction story. It's about what happens when inherited dreams meet generous action, when one generation's vision becomes another generation's reality, and when human effort creates space for divine presence. To understand these passages, we need to step back into ancient Israel around 950 BCE. David has died, and his son Solomon now rules during Israel's golden age. For years, David has dreamed of building a permanent temple to replace the portable tabernacle that had traveled with Israel since the Exodus. But David was a warrior king, constantly defending Israel's borders. His hand, as Nathan the prophet told him, had shed too much blood to build God's house. Now, Solomon inherits both a kingdom at peace and his father's unfulfilled dream. The cultural context matters here. In the ancient Near East, building a temple for your deity was the ultimate act of devotion and national identity. It declared to surrounding nations, "Our God dwells here among us." Solomon's international partnership with Hiram of Tyre shows Israel taking its place among established nations, no longer just struggling tribes, but a kingdom with resources and relationships. Listen to how Solomon frames this project in his message to Hiram. "You know that my father David wasn't able to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God." There's no shame or criticism here, just acknowledgement of different seasons requiring different responses. David fought so Solomon could build. Each generation contributes what it can. The phrase, "for the name of the Lord my God," appears repeatedly. In Hebrew thought, a name represents essence and presence. Solomon isn't building a house to contain God. That's impossible. He's creating sacred space where the infinite God chooses to meet finite humans. This tension between transcendence and immanence runs throughout these passages. Notice the collaborative nature of this project. Solomon doesn't work alone, but partners with Hiram, who provides both materials and expertise. Sacred work often requires us to work with others, even those outside our faith community. Hiram's workers knew construction. Solomon's people knew worship. Together, they built something neither could accomplish alone. Fast forward to chapter 8, and we witness the dedication ceremony. The detail about the carrying poles being so long that their tips could be seen from the holy place reminds us that holy things still need human hands to move them. Divine work requires human participation. The ark containing the covenant tablets represents God's promises and Israel's identity, finally finding a permanent home. Then comes the overwhelming moment. A cloud fills the temple so completely that the priests cannot continue their duties. This echoes the Exodus story when God's glory filled the tabernacle. The Hebrew word for glory, kavod, literally means weight or heaviness. God's presence has substance, impact, the ability to stop us in our tracks. Solomon's response fascinates me. The Lord said that he would live in a dark cloud, but I have indeed built you a lofty temple. He acknowledges the mystery. God dwells in approachable darkness while celebrating human accomplishment. We build our best for God while knowing God transcends our best efforts. So how do these ancient voices speak to us today? First, they remind us that we're part of something larger than individual lives. Every congregation inherits dreams from previous generations, buildings they sacrificed to construct, ministries they labored to establish, visions they couldn't complete. The question becomes, what will we do with what we've received? Second, these passages challenge us to think about sacred space. While we don't believe God lives only in church buildings, we recognize that dedicated spaces matter. When we maintain and improve our worship spaces, we're creating environments where people can encounter God. That renovation project, that technology upgrade, that accessibility improvement, these create opportunities for God's presence to be experienced by people who desperately need it. Third, Solomon's generous investment reminds us that sacred work requires material resources. Spirituality isn't separate from economics. The temple required cedar, gold, skilled labor, and overwhelming sacrifice. When we give towards God's purposes, whether through tithes, capital campaigns, or mission support, we're participating in creating space where transformation happens. Finally, that cloud filling the temple reminds us that when we create space for God, God shows up in ways that exceed our expectations. We do our part, building, giving, preparing. Then God does what only God can do, fill our efforts with divine presence that changes lives. The voices from 1 Kings still speak. David's voice sharing vision he couldn't complete. Solomon's voice transforming vision into reality. And above all, God's voice promising to dwell among the people. These ancient words invite us to consider our own role in this ongoing story. What vision has been entrusted to you? What are you building that will outlast your lifetime? Where is God calling you to generous investment in sacred purpose? As you move through this week, listen for these voices in your own life, the inherited dreams waiting for action, the partnerships ready to form, and the divine presence waiting to fill what you faithfully build.